All right, just fooling around at the end there. Welcome everyone, I am Soul MCA and welcome back to Soul MCA's channel. Glad that you can join me today if it is your first time. So happy that you can join. If you're coming back again, thank you for your continued support. A friend and I were talking the other day about the importance of being aware of what the drummer is doing and having what the drummer is doing dictate what you do on the bass. And I sent him one of my old videos and I listened to the video after I sent it to him. Like, let me just refresh what I'm saying. And in the video, I was talking at one of my clinics and explaining what you should do with a busy drummer and how to lock it in. I'm going to tag that video here. If you haven't seen that already, you should. It is really good information that you should just be aware of. Now, while I was listening to it, I was like, this is really good. I did a really great example of what should be done, but something kept nagging me while I was listening to it. And it's something that I find a lot of beginner bass players ignore, and something that even some intermediate bass players ignore. And a lot of times as drummers, we're always searching for the next thing, the next big lick, the next slap and pluck type of deal, the next like golden goose. And we miss a lot of times the foundational things or the simpler things that can make our bass playing go much further. And in that demo that I started with, I was demonstrating something to you. What should have happened is you should have heard me do two things. One, I was playing an initial groove, and that initial groove should have kind of pulled you in like, okay, all right. Okay, this is the groove. Okay, I got that. All right, he's established the groove. Okay. And somewhere in there, you should have started to get a little bored, like, okay, we got it. We understand this is the groove. Are you going to do anything else? And right at that point, I should have introduced a new line to you, right? You would have heard a little variation. The first two notes still sounded the same, but then there started to be some variation on the back end. And what that's called is an A and B bass line, an A and B bass line or type of bass line, where you have your A bass line, which for me in this case was, which I established as our main groove, right? Then I took a piece of that and gave you a B part, right? I'm not going to give you the notes because they don't matter for me in this lesson. They may matter to you, like, well, what were you doing? It doesn't matter to me for this lesson. I'm trying to show you a concept more than I'm trying to show you a thing. And honestly, if you're getting hung up on the notes and what I did, you're still missing the issue here. You're missing the point here. Sometimes we can just find ourselves playing stagnant bass lines. And that's what I was doing in that example I was showing. And I was trying to drive home a point. But I got kind of annoyed even in knowing that I was driving home a point because I didn't give that line any variation. And so you might say, okay, well, that's all good and well. But even that kind of got a little boring, because what I did was I intentionally ran that new line, that B part, and I ran it over and over again. Now, when you have an A and B part, there's so many ways you can do it. You can do them alternating. Right? Or you can do it occasionally. You could just ride. I could have rode the main groove, put in that one little B part and got off of it and went back. Maybe I do like 8 bars of A, then come in with a B, then go back to 8 bars of A. And what you also would have noticed is after I pulled in the first B, and your ears would have lit up a little bit like, oh, that's something new he introduced. And then I went right back to A. Went right back to that groove, which is important because the ear likes to hear established things. Now, because I rode the B part a little longer, your ear might have started to get used to that new thing. But believe me, subconsciously, once I went back to A, your brain was kind of set at even more ease, like, oh, wow, he went back to the groove. And then you probably were yearning a little bit for me to get back to that B part too. So these are things that you should be mindful of in your playing. Try to add in wherever you can a B part. You may not be playing a groove like this in church where you're just sitting on something like this and chilling. But let's say you're doing something like He's Able. Do it again. That's going to get boring after a while. So what if you do something like time out, time out. If you're enjoying this video thus far, I'm going to give you an opportunity to show your support by reminding you to hit the like button. And if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. Lastly, hit that bell and make sure you click all so that you get all notifications when a new video has been posted. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program. Well, I'm getting carried away now. So let me do better on that example. Sorry, because I started to think about other things. Okay, so then go back to A. Now, I'm not saying you have to go back to B every single time, every other time, but somewhere in that song, if I just kept riding that same believe me, by the 4th or 5th time, the people in the audience are going to be like, okay, all right, son, you're doing well, son. You're doing well, son. But they're going to want something different. And so you've got to add in that variety. Variety is the spice of life. And you've got to know when to add in a B part. And that's just like a real world example. He's Able, where you can add something. And what you want to do when you go to these B parts or make these B parts, they don't have to be elaborate. And as a matter of fact, you don't want them to be elaborate. You want some of the line to reflect the first part of the line, you want some of it to be familiar. Let's say I go back to, if I could remember this first groove. So let's say I do something simpler, right? I'm gonna do a simpler one, all right? Here comes my B part. Right, so my B part was just adding that octave twice. That was it. And even that can go a longer way. You can get a little more elaborate. Right, and And so you don't know it yet, maybe if you're a beginner, but a lot of the bass players you love, you enjoy, what they're doing right in front of your eyes or in front of your ears are these like little variations that they're putting in their bass lines. I'm gonna tell you who's really good for this. Derek Bennett is really good for this, right? And he's playing a line, you get used to the line, but he'll just put in a little sneaky something that's just a smidge different. And that's what's keeping you excited. That's what's keeping you hooked. For some players, it may be that they just forgot the original line and they put something else in there. But a lot of them are intentionally doing it. And it's something that you should be trying to get intentionally into your playing. All right. So A parts and B parts. Hopefully I gave you some good examples. I mean, it might have been a little cheesy, but you get the point. You don't always, and I gotta reemphasize this, you don't always have to be looking for the next pentatonic lick, the next gospel chop to make your playing better. If you feel like you've plateaued, you feel like you've reached a point, you may need, I tell people all the time, go back to the basics. Start looking at simpler things, and concepts can grow your playing much more than a lick, let's say. All right, I gave you that video where I was showing you the one lick. Okay, you got an extra lick you can put in. How much more is it going to do for your playing overall? You can put it in different songs. You could speed it up. You could add a couple more notes, take a couple notes off. But overall, it's not going to add a large chunk to your playing. But if you have a concept and you take a concept, you can start to say, okay, with this concept, I can grow more things. Because I gave you He's Able. I gave you this groove where I showed you some A and B parts. I'm taking that concept and stretching it out. All right. I know some bass players have asked me in the past that know me personally, well, can you give me some tips? Can you give me some advice? And I'm sure they walk away a little annoyed by me. Not because I'm not giving them a golden nugget. I'll say something like, oh, work your octaves some more, or try to find more innovative ways to use the major scale, or try to start somewhere else on your pentatonic lick. And they might be like, but I want you to give me like that lick you did or this that you did. I'm not going to do that, because that'll help you today. I could teach you, I could give you a fish, or I can teach you to fish. And this is part of that, teaching you how to fish. All right, I'm going on because I'm getting on the soapbox now. But remember A and B parts in your bass lines. I'm Soul MCA, and hopefully you enjoyed this lick. Well, not lick, but this lesson today.